From Adam's house, and Gina's house, and Bryan's house, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, New York Times best-selling author Scott Carney. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Bryan on sound effects, Dan Dunn stops by with some quarantine cocktails, and Dave Dameshek's here for good sports. And now, fondly recalling all of his childhood brother-sister rowing machine competitions, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. Mandate, get it on. Okay, so we're changing up the order a little bit here, and I'll lay all my cards on the table. Scott Carney is joining us again, investigative journalist, author, anthropologist. I'm very much interested in his new book, The Wedge. And as you know, his last book, What Doesn't Kill Us, spent 2 months on the New York Times bestseller list. I got all into the cold plunge and all that. I got so much to get into. We're changing up the order, Scott, sorry, because Dan Dunn is going to get us drunk later.
Oh, thanks for putting me first. I appreciate that.
Right. And also, so what I wanted to do, and so we'll get a little tipsy in the studio, but now that everyone's in their sweatpants and at home, we may go full blotto. So I didn't want to get drunk and then interview you and then get really uncomfortable where I go, dude, have you been working out? And then you go, as a matter of fact, I have. And I go, I'd like to do a little deep breathing with you, Bucka. So,
well, your show goes in some crazy directions. I sort of want to be there for that.
Well, maybe you can hang out and watch me get drunk. So I watched the video for the book. Or what, I don't know what we call the presentation, the sizzle reel.
Oh, that's a book trailer, my friend.
A book trailer,
yeah,
and
book
all
trailer.
that you've been into. So I'm so simpatico with you. I have been doing the cold water plunge for a number of years now, and it is life-changing. Obviously, every Wim Hof, the whole 9 yards, every bit of new information we find, it all just leads back to that trail of discipline and experiencing pain and overcoming and all that. But where to begin? How were you introduced to this world? Like you were interviewed Wim Hof years before anyone else did. How did that come about?
Yeah, I was sort of the first American journalist to take Wim seriously. Like before that, he was sort of a circus act. And then I had this commission from Playboy to go out and fly to him. And the reason, though, was because I was sure that he was a charlatan. And I'd written a book about charlatan gurus and how meditation can kill you. So I figured that Wim Hof and his crazy ice bath stuff was going to get people killed. And so I flew out there, met him in Poland, and he's wearing this like green pointy garden gnome hat.
Right.
And I'm like, and he smells bad. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy, man. And, but lo and behold, I try his method. And within a week, I'm doing like crazy numbers of push-ups while not breathing. I'm sitting in ice cold ponds of water and like, I'm not warm, but I feel pretty good. And then I climbed up a mountain in my underwear. And I was like, well, I guess my whole life has changed because I went from being someone who was pretty skeptical about this to being someone who was like I do this every day. I do the breathing every day. And I also want to point out is that the last time that I was here, we talked about ice baths, and then you sent me a picture of you in your pool and you said, I did it, I'm in. And I'm so glad to see you still jumping in all the time.
You know, couple of things. People should know that as negative as a cycle can get, too much fast food, putting on the weight, feeling lethargic, the less you work out, the less you want to work out, the more time binge watching Locked Up Abroad and eating Shake Shack, the slower, the metabolism, blah, blah, blah. There's also a happy side to this, which is when you start getting into that freezing cold pool in the morning, when you start going for long hikes, when you start cutting back on the sugars and the grains and that kind of stuff, that has its own momentum equally in a positive direction. So it's not like, well, either I'm getting fat, lazy, and dumb or nothing. It's I could be going this other direction. And I do see a larger populace in our country and in the world that is going the other direction hard. And what I'm a little bit concerned about, and maybe it's something for you as an anthropologist to look into, which is we're always talking about the chasm between the haves and the have-nots, but we're talking about money. But let's
Mhm.
forget about money for a second. What
Sure.
about in totality, spirituality, health,
Mhm.
weight, life,
Mhm.
fitness,
Mhm.
vigor, enthusiasm? What if one group is eating more and more Pizza Hut and slowing down more and more, and the other group is fucking going, full Gwyneth Paltrow, you
Yeah.
know? And then what? Then what is this chasm going to be? Because it used to be rich people and poor people, but they were both skinny.
Mhm. Well,
Now
the
it's a
question is,
totally
what's the
different thing.
point
Yeah.
of the question is, what's the point of being alive in the first place, right? It's not about money. Our life is not about working 40 hours a week, fully funding your retirement and dying comfortably in your bed when you've finally given up, right? We want to now have experiences. Like, the point of life is to feel things, it's to do
Right.
things, it's to expand your abilities. Because what's the point? It doesn't matter if I have $1 million in my bank account. I don't, but it wouldn't matter if I did, right? Because if I wasn't using the opportunities that I have, the advantages that I have, if I wasn't using my body to constantly be improving, then why are we here? Like, what are we doing? Life is between birth and death, and I don't know what happens afterwards, but I do know that while I'm here, I want to feel deeply, I want to sense things deeply. And the cool thing about the Wedge is that I found, from ice baths, that I could control myself and like expand my ability to use heat and things like that. But now I can do the same sorts of things with fear, with sleep, with psychedelic drugs, but by using things that make me feel like strongly, and then modulating the way my body responds. I've been having some great adventures.
Well, I want to drill down on feel things because I'm with you. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people who don't want to feel cold. They don't want to feel pain. They
Hmm.
don't want to feel fear. We are evolved not to feel. We
Hmm.
invented blankets and pillows and air conditioning and booze and everything else to not feel. There's so much. I don't want to feel hungry. I don't want to feel
Right.
cold. I don't want to feel anxiety. I want to feel danger, fear.
Right.
So we are evolved to get away from fear, and
Right.
we've done a pretty fucking good job of it. Now,
Hmm.
100 years ago, well, I don't know, maybe smallpox or malaria could take you out.
Hmm.
You didn't have heating and air, central heat and air. No, and if you had a car, you had a donkey, didn't have an airbag on it. But we have evolved so fast to the point where we don't have any real fear, discomfort,
Right.
pain, or feeling. And we now have to do what you're doing, which is imposing it on
Yep.
yourself. And a lot of people are having difficulty squeezing the trigger.
Yeah. Well, because if you think about it, every sense that you can feel, every emotion, conscious thought, whatever, it only got there because evolution put it there, right? We evolved to feel things, and the reason why evolution works is because it's about death. It's about
Right.
every creature mutates and gets to a certain point, and then there's a problem it has to address, whether it's cold, whether it's heat, whether it's a predator, doesn't matter. It's a thing. And we feel things in order to give us the information we need to navigate the world. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's all about living longer, and which means it's about dying. And the reason we don't want to feel anything now is because none of us want to get right with death. And
Right.
I am, the first page in my book, it's the big reveal. You're all going to die. It's coming for you. And it doesn't matter, what we want to do with our life. If life is a song, it ends in a minor key. And we know that. But once we've accepted that, once we're able to say, look, it's coming for me, and you're like, okay, the end is here, that gives the moments between birth and death so much more meaning, so much more opportunity to do things. And the cool thing about the Wedge is now we're digging into the programming of our body that always knows death is there and is trying to make us avoid it. And I do want to avoid it. I want to live a long time, just like everyone else. I want to be healthy, happy, and strong. But I don't want to live my life in fear of that. I don't want to be anxious about that. I want to say, here I am right now, and I'm living my fullest.
Um, I'm looking at some of the subtitles, and I would encourage anyone who's listening to pause for 2 minutes and 14 seconds and watch the commercial for the Wedge. I guess you can find it on YouTube. I had to sent to me, but I'm guessing you can just go to YouTube or Google.
We'll
it's on-
tweet out the book trailer.
We'll tweet out the trailer. The trailer's it's very well done, but it'll give you a real strong feeling about what we're talking about here. And one of the things you say is you want to interrupt the cycle in our heads and lock in on the worst case scenario. So I know so many people are fear-based and worst case scenario based.
Right.
Now, you are fear-based as well. You're just fearful of not living a rich, complete, and full life where you completely explore your potential and your possibilities. So, the fear can be a two-way street. It doesn't have to be stifling. I'm scared of not being able to prove I was alive when I, 10 minutes before I die, So you can have fear of not living a full life. And I would suggest you take your fear of indoor allergies or gluten or whatever it is you're fearful of, or Trump or whoever, and just shift it toward being a fucking loser, like not experiencing anything in your life. But let's talk about that.
Well, I find it actually really funny that you brought up these like sort of existential threats, whether it's a politician, diet, COVID, doesn't matter. There's all these things in the world that make us anxious, that feed into us. Like you're on the internet and someone says something wrong on the internet and you get pissed and you write back. And I did this the other day. I was very angry at a politician. I wrote horrible things and it chewed on me for hours and hours. And I couldn't sleep all night because I was sure that I was right and the other person was wrong. And then I woke up and I have this breathing. I do the Wim Hof breathing every morning. And I did it, and there was a cold shower afterwards, and I had this enormous sense of relief at the end because it interrupted those thoughts, and it interrupted this constant cycle. And if you think back to our Paleolithic ancestors, right now they got spears and they're walking down on the savannah, and there's a lion charging at them. They release all of these stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, all the things to give them boosts of energy because that lion's coming and they have to run the fuck away from it.
Right.
But in the modern world, there's no lion. It's just like, I'm angry at a politician, right? And we don't have a physical output. And this is why like cold showers, breathing, all these exercise programs that I'm getting into are so important because it gives us that stress that we need naturally in order to modulate those stress hormones that we've just dumped into our bodies.
Yeah, I agree. And, I would say further, it's not that we don't have a lion, we create lions.
Sure.
So it's like we don't physically have something with huge teeth and claws that could tear us apart. We do it in the form of, and then you fill in the blank. Whatever your scene is, you create that lion. And that's, now it's lose-lose. There is no actual lion, but we're still feeling all the fear of living in the lion's world. And I completely agree. You must interrupt your thought process. If you let your mind go, it starts going in a negative direction and you can live there for a long period of time. I always tell people, have a project. I do feel like physical problem solving is another version of this. It's a longer version of a cold shower. It's the cold shower hits you, and when it hits you, you think of nothing else other than the cold water hitting your back. The problem solving and the projects, that is a marathon versus the sprint of the cold shower. The sprint of the cold shower erases all those thoughts immediately. The project limits the thoughts. It's intermittent. It's in between. It's like I'm driving to the hardware store. I'm thinking about this politician who's a dickhead. But then I get into the hardware store and now I'm looking at couplers and sleeves and I'm looking at sizes. Is it a 5/8? Is it a 7/8? I'm not thinking about them anymore. Now I'm standing in line at the Home Depot. Now I'm back to thinking about the dickhead politician. I forgot a toggle bolt. Now I'm not thinking about the politician. So it's like, I've never thought about it this way, but it spreads it out.
Yeah. Well, you're also in control.
Right.
All of the things that you're mentioning are things that you are in control of, the toggleable, like the home renovations. Like, your problem is not this thing that you have no agency over, which is the politicians of the world, or like
Right.
anything, right? Like, no control over that. But when you manage things that you can't, your intelligence, your physical labor can change, that's when you start getting to be a happier person, which is really what this is all about. It's seeing that your actions matter. And to some degree, what you're talking about is also the wedge, right? It's also this thing where you're intervening in the things that you can't control and deciding, no, I do have control over this. But we can go even deeper. It's not just the moment of having control of putting the right lug nuts in the right place. It's also that emotion that you have going with it, right? There is this feeling inside your body that says, I have accomplished something. Right? I've never accomplished anything with a tweet in my entire life, but I have accomplished things, with a hammer. I have
Right.
accomplished things by even just riding my bike and getting exercise. I feel good after that. And it's really important to be aware of the sensations of the things that we do, which either ramp us up with anxiety, and usually anxiety has no output,
Right.
or they make us feel like, I did something good for once.
Well, I think what we're up against is people want to be happy and they want to feel good,
Mhm.
or whatever that definition is. And so you think to yourself, well, I'd like to be happy. I guess part of the path of getting to happy is feeling good. Okay. What feels good? Well, a nice hot bath feels good. Okay.
Sure.
That would
Comfort.
make me happy. Or what feels like hell? A freezing swimming pool. Oh, that doesn't. Okay. So I'm doing a math. The math is a nice hot bath will make me feel good. And if I feel good, I got a good shot at being happy. Then the pool is fucking freezing and I
Right.
dread it and I don't want to go in it. And that's going to make me feel bad. And then I'll be sad. What they don't understand is all the shit that you think feels bad or makes you sad, or running up Mount Kilimanjaro and in your underpants, or jumping in a freezing pool, or whatever that is. That does lead to happiness. And
Well,
we need to build that bridge in people's minds.
what might be very useful is actually one of the central concepts in this book is what we call neural symbols, which is really sort of the same thing that you're going on here about, which is, how does our brain make sense of the world in the very first place? And it comes down to sensation. If you think about consciousness and sitting in this like fleshy thing in your skull called the brain, that's essentially sitting in a saltwater bath in a protected environment. And the only way that your brain knows anything about the world is through your sensory system. It's through your peripheral nerves. It's through your eyes, your ears, your nose. And all of that stuff gets translated into signals that your brain takes up.
Right.
So the very central thing in the book is about that formation. And to use the example of an ice bath, because I know you're a warrior in the ice bath, think about the very first time, anytime you went in, you jump into the water and you've never felt this before. Your nerves take up that signal and it passes it up through your arms and through the rest of your skin, and it goes up your spinal cord as signal. And we know it's a loud signal. There's a volume and there's signal, but it gets into your brain, the lowest part of your brain, which is the limbic system. And if you've never felt this sensation before, I like to think of the limbic system as like a library. And there's a librarian in this library, and she gets this signal and she's like, oh, this is a loud one, but I've never felt this before. I don't know what this is. And so what she does is she says, she looks around at all the other feelings she's ever felt. It's a whole library, and she's never felt ice water before. So she kicks it up to the paralimbic system. This is like right next door. It's like 2 centimeters away. And the paralimbic system is something like a bookbinder. And it gets this thing and says, I don't know what this signal is. And the bookbinder says, okay, this ice water is the current emotional state that you are feeling right now. And so it binds it usually with unmitigated horror and terror, right? Oh no, this is where it binds that, kicks it back down to the librarian. And then she's like, cool, I know what to do with this signal. It's unmitigated horror and terror. Now here's the key to the wedge. The next time you jump into that ice water, that signal rockets up your spinal cord, gets to the limbic librarian, and she's like, cool, I know what this is. This is unmitigated horror and terror. and you are reliving your emotional past. Okay. Every time you feel something, you're going back to that earlier emotion that you felt before. And then you don't reimagine it. You don't recreate it unless you consciously intervene with it. And if you add up every bit of human consciousness, it all comes down to this process, because these neural symbols are like the bits and the bytes of our hard-coded nervous system. It's like a computer program. And if you get enough of them and you're developing neural symbols all the time, you get full level human consciousness. So what we can do is when we if we put ourselves in stressful situations where you're bringing up negative thoughts from your past, you can actually try to rewire them. You can say, I'm going to be in a good mood when I jump into the ice bath. That forces the librarian to create a new codex and add more of these neural symbols to her shelves, which pulls off sensation in the future.
Well, that was a nice job, by the way.
Thank you. I practice that for you.
A sip of filtered water. I have so many questions, but I'm going to float this theory out and you tell me what you think. What you just said kind of reminded me of, I'll oversimplify what you said, but it's sort of like a feeling. So I like to race cars, but I never did race in a professional Trans Am race. But then I did race in a professional Trans Am race and I got third place, and I know what the car feels like. I know the cars are all different that I drive, but this particular car is C7R Corvette, and it's got sequential shifting, which is like different than regular gear shift or automatic or paddle or whatever. But anyway, I know what it feels like. And thus there's a race coming up, God knows when, because of this COVID situation. But I said, bring that car. I'm going to drive that car again. I know what that feels like. And I now have a certain degree of confidence, not a degree that I'm going to win the race, but a sense of I'm going to get in that car and it's going to feel familiar to me.
Right.
Now, it would feel terrifying to a lot of people, but to me, it's going to feel familiar. It's still going to, there's going to be elements of fear or responsibility. It's got by the way, I think it has 980 horsepower or something. It's insane, but I know what the feeling is, you know, and I always sort of say, well, the difference between a person who can surf and a person who can't surf is a person who can't surf doesn't know what that feeling is. It's not that they're stronger. It's not, you know, there are guys who can surf there's guys who are triathletes who are much better shape. Even their balance is better. Everything is better, but they can't surf. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know what it feels like to snowboard because they've never snowboarded. Now, I then started to realize that if you have enough of these kinds of experiences, you can then sort of synthesize the feeling of doing your next activity without ever doing that activity. So obviously, somebody who snowboards all the time and who rides a unicycle and who can stand up on a yoga ball, well, that person would be able to feel what surfing was like. They'd probably be better at it faster. And if you said to that person who just snowboards and has never been to the ocean in their life, what's surfing feel like, they could kind of go, oh, I know. I feel what it feels like. Now, if you have a person that never leaves the sofa and, you know, exercise for them is they're in a bowling league, then they're never going to be able to synthesize that. And I have driven so many race cars that if you told me get in an F1 car or something you've never driven in your life, I could synthesize the feeling, or I could create the feeling, and it wouldn't be the same as doing it before, but I'd be a lot closer than someone who'd never done it. And if you do that with your experiences in life and you do enough very different things and one isn't the same as the other, you know, then at some point when somebody says, would you like to do this, or do you think you could handle that, you can stop and you can gauge it. You have a bunch of little measuring sticks in your mind. Does that sound correct?
No, that sounds actually perfect, because what you're really talking about is generalizable sense, like knowledge, right? You know, if you lived your whole life in a box and you only thought about and you'd never left, and you looked outside and you said, oh, look at that person jogging, that is terrifying. Because I've never jogged before. I've only been in my little box, right?
Right.
And that jogging, like, you're going to get run over by a car, or, you know, whatever it is you're thinking, because you don't have a ton of information to anticipate what things would be like. And fear is really about anticipation of bad events, right? It's not
Right.
living the bad event. You're not scared when you're getting eaten by the lion. You're scared of being eaten by the lion.
Right.
When you're getting mine, it just sucks in general. You're just being eaten. It's about anticipating things. So if you have a wide variety of experiences that are generalizable, and that limbic librarian is like, oh, I have to make some guess about how the world's going to be. She's going to pull off your unicycle, your race car, and like 3 other books off the shelf and be like, surfing's sort of like this. And
Right.
and the more material you have, the more that you can do, the more generalizable sense of anxiety and depression and those sorts of things go away, because you haven't had necessarily negative experiences associated with it. However, if you had been driving your F-150 car, right, or your Trans Am in that race, and you got in an accident and you had gotten injured in that accident, you had a traumatic experience, that's also going to inform the future, right? That's also going to form the way you look at your Trans Am the next time. And
Right.
so then the question is, well, how do we get you over that anxiety once you've had trauma? Like, what sort of new information can we put in there so that you do want to get back on the road and you don't want to limit yourself? And so there's this interesting balance that you need to go through in order to, you know, practice the wedge, in order to you know, live a full life.
Yeah, I also have this notion about going from the sort of grandstands out onto the playing field or up onto the stage or
Mhm.
whatever that is. And these are all just dribs and drabs of thoughts that you can try to assemble as I move forward.
Thanks.
I realize a
Did
lot.
you drink just before this, actually?
Not
Come on.
yet, but I may have gotten a contact high from all the booze bottles I brought down to my theater. Um, so here's what I'm saying. I, I understand, like everyone understands that feeling of going to a new school for the first day and you don't know anybody and everyone seems to have a clique and is chatting and knows everybody by name and you're just sort of standing almost on the outside looking in, like you're talking about your box, you know?
Mhm.
And I do realize, like, when I go out and do stand up, everyone in the audience is looking at the stand up on stage thinking, I couldn't do that. And the stand up is up there going, thinking, you probably could if you wanted to, but you're
Right.
too scared to do it. But
Mhm.
I have the experience of being on stage. You're looking at me going, I can't get into that club. And when I used to go to vintage car races, and the clique seemed so tight. Like all the guys seemed to know each other, and there was a bunch of rules and different flags that you'd have to memorize. And for me, it was never, I wanted to go vintage race, but it wasn't about the money and it wasn't about the skill. It was like, I'm not in that group. I'm not with those guys. I'm scared that I would enter that group and everyone would look at me and go, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? And at some point I joined that group and now I'm in that group. And I felt the
Right.
same with stand up. I just
Right.
go and do stand up now. I don't think about how scary it is or if I deserve to be there or what. And I do it the vintage race. And what I'm saying is it's so easy just to look from outside and go, I'm not that
Mhm.
person or I couldn't join that, whatever. The more of those things you join, you participate in, the more you feel like, oh yeah, I got this, or I'm one of those people, or I
Mhm.
know how to handle this, the more that just broadens your scope
Right.
completely. Like the first time you see Wim Hof lying in a snowbank in his underpants, you go, wow, not me, not
Mhm.
me. And now it is you. You haven't
Right.
even changed.
Yep.
It's just you now. You don't even
Mhm.
think, you process it completely and utterly differently now, right?
Yeah. Um, Absolutely. And there's something about that also, that shared stress that you all went through together, which brought you into that place of community. And this I'm going to get back to this point by leading you through a chapter in this book where I did something that frankly terrified me, right? I had just hung out in this neuroscience lab at Stanford trying to understand what the roots of fear were, where the doctor had put me into a virtual shark tank filled with great white sharks, but made out of digital bits, trying to scare me. Unfortunately, great white sharks didn't scare me, but he taught me a lot about how fear gets wired, which was what I was talking about with neural symbols. But here's what happened: is I left his lab sort of let down, being like, virtual sharks are sort of lame. And then I got this message from a friend of mine, which said, Scott, you have to go meet my friend Michael Castrogiovanni. He throws kettlebells at you to put you into an instantaneous flow state, which is probably the douchiest message I've ever gotten.
It is pretty douchey, but I saw it in the trailer.
So what happens is I'm like, okay, whatever. I just had this sort of like lackluster shark experience. I'm going to meet this dude and to see what this is all about. And then I meet Michael, and Michael is, for all intents and purposes, a gorilla of a human. Like he's a nice guy, nice smile, but his arms are as big as my legs. He sort of hunches over like this, his butt goes out, and he looks like a gorilla. And all of a sudden, I'm standing across from him, and he's holding like one of these, like a 25-pound piece of iron in his hands.
Right.
And he's
kettlebell. Yes.
A kettlebell. Oh yeah. Sorry for those of you listening. Yeah. It's a kettlebell, and he's swinging it between his legs, and he looks right in my eyes. And I would swim with these virtual sharks. I was like, whatever. And now my butt is puckering because this man is going to throw this kettlebell at me. He looks right at me in the eyes, and he says, "Okay, here it comes. Are you ready?" He swings it, and he doesn't let go. He swings it again, and we go from looking at each other's eyes to looking at this bell. And then the third time he swings it, he lets it go, and I catch this kettlebell, and honestly, my asshole was like crushing diamonds at this point. But I catch it, and then I swing it right back to him. And in this moment, I go from like everyone's thinking right now, oh, you're throwing kettlebells at each other, you're going to break a foot, right? There's a real danger of breaking your foot, which is totally there. But instead, because we're two guys when we're facing each other, usually that's like oppositional, like you're going to fight each other. But because you want to sort of play catch, this forces us to go into concert. We enter into instantaneous flow because we're both locked in onto this danger, onto this kettlebell, and it turns out that we're dancing instead.
Right.
And that movement from fear into like group communication, building trust and building empathy is exactly what you were talking about on the stand-up stage, right? You're saying, I couldn't be one of those guys. But then once you've been on the stage, you've done that thing that puckers you, that terrifies you. And then you're like, oh, I can do it. Now you have a community of people. And that's like super, super fascinating, is that when you face a danger, and especially when you face a danger with someone else, it creates these shared bonds of human experience that make you fuller. It makes you connected. And when
well, here's what was coursing through my brain. And at a certain point, I'm actually made a note, which is I want to talk to you about immune system, especially with what's going on in this world. So pre-prep for that. But I want to say that the crazy, Dr. Drew would always talk about how much stronger we were when we were genetically adverse, when it had diversity, genetic diversity, so you'd go, well, what does that mean? And he'd go, well, the mutt has a better immune system than the purebred does, and the poodle or whatever, the diversity.
Did you say I heard that.
What I say?
You said pubal.
Oh, sorry. I was sleep deprived last night, but anyway, the diversity is what we want. Yes. And that makes us stronger and hardier. And I go, okay, I've always believed in that. And we know the blue bloods can kind of breed it out of their system or breed themselves into all sorts of diseases, and the diverse and the mutts, that they don't. So I believe that in life experiences as well. So I believe that racing a car is a good thing, but it only really helps in more car racing endeavors or things of that nature. I mean, not only helps, I don't mean that. What I mean is if you limit all your experiences, like I believe building is a great experience. So I build stuff, and then one could learn to fabricate things and weld and design and engineer, but that's all fine. But you still, it's not going to help you get up on stage.
Right.
But if you could do things that were diverse, if you could say, I'm going to go into this Stanford lab and I'm going to study with a bunch of technicians, and then I'm going to go throw these kettlebells around with this gorilla man, or I'm going to go do stand up, and then I'm going to go race the car, and then I'm going to go get into a kickboxing fight. Damn. That to me, when you can spread it out and get that, we get that diversity going. It just like with your immune system, just like with your cells, if you can do that sort of emotionally diversify that portfolio, I think it really strengthens you, just like the genetic part we're talking about.
I just wrote a little pithy t-shirt statement that now you can use based on what you just said, which is the more you do, the more you can do. Right. I'm giving that to you. That's yours.
Thank you.
But you're right. I mean, the more if I was just a race car driver or just a soldier, just doing the things in that narrow realm, it doesn't mean that I can generalize to anything. I can give a speech in front of the Senate, right? You might be able to control your adrenaline in certain stimuli, but you really need a diversity of stimuli, which is really why this book came about for me, right? So the Wedge was like, I had been doing the Wim Hof method for 10 years, right? That I'm cold shower every day, breathing every day. And I did some badass things. I'm in Kilimanjaro on my skivvies, right? But at the end of that, I'm up the top of Kilimanjaro, and I'm like, well, what's next? Right. So I'm an ice bath warrior who cares. And so I was like, well, where else can I find that magic? Because in the cold, what you're doing is you're relaxing, right? It's a stressful thing. And then you have to be like, I can relax in this stress.
Right.
Well, let's go expand, right? Let's go to like 20 different types of stress. Let's do emotional stress. Let's do physical stress. Let's do temperature stress. I did this 5-hour sauna in Latvia with 2 shamans.
180 degrees.
180, at the low end, right? And then I bought a sauna when I came back. But what was going on there is, so in Latvia, there's the sauna tradition that goes back to like the Druids, essentially, right? Think of like green pointy hats and like nature jumper around her peoples. And I went there with my wife. I showed up at this sauna, and the first thing that the people did there was do this ancient ritual, which was just straight up madness. Okay. So I walk into the room, and these 2 people who are dressed like garden gnomes are in this like super fancy building. There's a sauna next door, and I'm in the tea room that's adjacent to the sauna, and the sauna is roaringly hot. It's probably like 250 degrees, but we're not in there yet. And they say, have this strange food. And they feed me bread with pine needles in it, honey with wormwood in it, tea that's super bitter and weird. And I'm drinking this like totally bizarre meal that's also weirdly familiar. And then they say, close your eyes. And so my wife and I are standing there, and we close our eyes. And then they start dancing around us like garden gnomes. I kid you not. They have like branches they're shaking to make it sound like it's raining. They're playing like Fur-Elise on a music box. They're cackling like wood elves. It's super, super weird and disconcerting. Okay. And it's supposed to be. And after about 5 minutes of this super odd experience, they say, okay, wait, open your eyes. And we open our eyes, and I suddenly start sweating. I'm just like, all of a sudden just sweating. Because what I didn't realize was in that moment, while they were doing this super weird druid dance, is that they had opened the door to the sauna, and the room's temperature had skyrocketed, and I hadn't noticed what had happened. And they were like sort of fooling my system. And then this ritual, which lasts a hell of a long time, it's 5 hours. We're sitting there on the benches where my wife and I were both naked, and just picture 2 gorgeous people naked, like really hot people. Okay. So we're 2 hot people on these benches, and these wood elves are like bashing us with flowers, like hitting us with bouquets of flowers and rubbing honey on us. And it's all the same stuff that we just eaten, but in a different form. Like the bitter tea was like a branch of that stuff. And so we're on this bench, and right at that point, when I'm getting to the red line, what I call it, the moment where you're about to break, they like take a little sprig of something, like cold water, and just douse it on your feet. And somehow that brings us right down from that point where I'm about to break. And then it gets weird. Okay. Then after they're beating me with, I think it was a wormwood branch, I start to experience synesthesia, which is the blending of senses. So it's when you hear sound. It's when you hear sight. It's when you see smells. It's when you're blending all of these things. And what they're doing is by putting me under very diverse stress, right? Of heat and this bashing and whatnot, because I'm at that point where I'm just my brain is trying to fight the heat stimulus. All of my senses get mixed together, and we're able to actually have crazy endurance because of this. Because the whole ritual of 180 degrees is 5 hours in the sauna together, and this speaks to that whole diversity of experience that you're talking about. My actual nervous system is experiencing 20 different stimulus at once, and that gives me resilience, that gives me endurance, and we get out and we feel freaking amazing. I feel like someone just like gave me a neti pot to my soul. It's so cool.
Yeah, I gotta say, as a guy who has a sauna, I'm having a little trouble getting heat into it, but it gets up to like 162 or 3 or something. And I got, 20 minutes, even at 160, 165 feels pretty hot. 5 hours at 180 plus seems unimaginable to me. But
we're super good looking people. So
not to you anymore. But yeah, I can imagine being good looking and nude. But Scott, I got to do a quick spot here, but I want you to think about your immune system.
Ready.
I want you to think about what has happened to your immune system since you started this behavior, engaging in these activities. I never had any issues with allergies, or I wasn't allergic to anything or anything of that nature. I don't know if you had hay fever or anything you had in the past, or were allergic to anything, peanuts or what have you. You can share that with us as well. And I also want to kind of tee up this concept of, instead of sterilizing everything in our world, why don't we have a kick-ass immune system that can take on anything that's coming from outside in, which is basically what I feel. So I want to know what your feelings of that and how that affects what's going on right now, as a matter of fact. All right, let me hit DC Universe real quick. Like, DC Universe is here. And they're here to save today. You can watch a DC series and movies and read over 22,000 digital comics and content with other fans. You can share and engage with their community forum if you like. They got an amazing lineup of a hit original series and classic series and movies and adult animated series. And you can check out Doom Patrol, Titan, Swamp Thing, and Harley Quinn season 2. That is back on the air as we speak as well. My son is all over this thing, so you can get the latest news with special guests. Watch DC Daily and tune in to their podcast as well. It's available on Xbox and Roku and Amazon Prime Video, Google Play, and wherever you find and stream things. It is DC Universe, right, Dawson?
Get a free 7-day trial plus 15% off your first 3 months with promo code Adam at checkout. Go to dcuniverse.com/join and use promo code Adam at checkout. Again, that's dcuniverse.com/join and use promo code Adam at checkout. Valid for monthly subscription. Only expires 5/31/20.
All right. So, immune system, your personal anecdotal experiences, and go, Scott.
So go.
So
the craziest thing about doing the Wim Hof method for so long I went there as a skeptic, and then I wrote the story being like, oh my God, this Wim guy's amazing, right? And I look at the underwear stuff that I did, right? But what I didn't expect at all was that this autoimmune illness that I had, which is probably the lamest autoimmune illness in the history of autoimmune illnesses, but one that had plagued me since birth, which was canker sores, which are these like white mouth ulcers that are painful, hard to talk. It usually starts because you have some sort of insult to your immune system when you're young, and it sort of comes back. It could be like a herpes infection, or it could be a number of other things too. But I would get them once every 2 weeks, and they would become the size of a dime in my mouth.
Right.
And they were horrible. I considered myself a canker survivor. Okay.
Right.
and after doing the Wim Hof Method, this was in 2011 when I first met him in January. I kept doing it because it made me feel good, the breathing and the cold showers. And then I never had a canker sore again. Now, actually, I had one canker sore a few years ago, but they never came. And the reason a few years ago came is because I had stopped doing the breathing for like 2 weeks. And I was like, well,
so first off, thank you for having a pre-existing condition. I was hoping,
knowing
that you started as a scholar, I knew you had to have something that you were allergic to, or that you couldn't be in the room with. So the canker sore is very interesting because that is a very tangible physical representation of like a weakened immune system.
Right.
I don't think, people can go, I felt lethargic, but what does that really mean? Like, what is your lethargic and my lethargic and Wim's lethargic? You know what I mean? But canker sore is a very tangible expression of something wrong. And from someone who had it from a very young age, and you for many, many years, and just kind of dealing with it, to it going away through doing something that wasn't specifically to remedy canker sores is pretty good evidence that it made an impact in your life. What is the Wim Hof breathing that you do that we can share with the listeners?
Yeah, so the Wim Hof Method is pretty simple to learn. Like, just go to YouTube and you can watch any number of people who've explained it. But essentially, what it is deep hyperventilation, or they call it superventilation, for about 30 breaths. Then you exhale and hold your breath as long as you can with empty-ish lungs. And then you repeat that process: hyperventilation, exhale, breath, hold. You do, and the breathing would sound a little like this.
When you exhale, and again, be careful, everyone, when you go hold your breath. Well, first off, sit down or lie down or something, because you can pass out.
Never do this in a car,
right?
While you're driving, or you could do it in the back seat. Never do this in water, because you'll die. I promise you, you'll die. 9 people have died doing this in the water because they think they can hold their breath for a really long period of time. You will die. Don't do that. Don't plan.
So be somewhere where you can't hit your head if you pass out. But everyone thinks of holding their breath in terms of taking a huge gulp of air and holding their breath. Exhale, push all the air out, then hold your breath. You will be surprised. I told my listeners I got to 2 minutes last week, and I don't even practice. You can do it. There is a moment, or there are several moments, where not only is there a physiological thing going on with you, but there's an emotional thing going on, where if you try to get to 2 minutes, at some point you'll feel a little panicky and you'll really want air, and you have to kind of push through that and get back into relaxation. Totally. And you'll be surprised that you can have these little flare-ups 45 seconds in, and then a minute later actually be feeling better if you can do a good job of pouring a little kitty litter on that fire and just tamping it down. Like,
totally. And you know what's really fascinating about this? So you end up holding your breath for long periods of time. I hold my breath for about 3 minutes. That is
a long period of time.
It is. But here's the really crazy thing. And this emotional moment is what I want to look at for just a second, is where you're getting to that point where you sort of want to gasp. And usually people feel that as anxiety. Now, what's really going on here is you've built up a lot of CO2 in your system. Because, when you're breathing in oxygen, and then your respiration lets off CO2. And CO2 in your lungs creates anxiety. It's such a well-known, documented thing that if you're in cognitive behavioral therapy, so if you're doing one of those, if someone's trying to treat you for anxiety, sometimes what they will do is they will give you a high dose of CO2 to provoke a panic attack in a safe environment. So you'll have the panic attack and you're afraid of the panic attack, but the CO2, you take it in and you have the panic attack, but you're safe. So it makes the panic attacks better, right? That's the theory there. So I went in the Wedge, I went to a place in Oklahoma where we were looking at float tanks, but the person there also studies anxiety. And he was looking at CO2 high doses. And he had dosed people even who had damaged amygdala, like that's the fear center in the brain. And he dosed them with CO2 and they had panic attacks. And he was like, I want to see you, who has done breath work for so long, I want to see how you respond to this, because he figured I'd freak out. And so I'm sitting there and I put his mask on and I'm a little freaked out that I'm going to lose my shit in front of him, right? In front of his doctor. And the test is, over the course of 30 minutes, you press this button 3 times, you get a 32% mixture of CO2 into the air. And he says, okay, press the button whenever you're ready. So I press the button, I inhale, and I am in bliss. I am like at the end of that breath hold where there's that emotional moment that you were talking about, where you're like, I'm overcoming, right? I was there instantaneously. It tasted like citrus in my mouth. And then I was like, oh, weird. And he was like shocked. And then over the next 30 minutes, I pressed that button 11 times. And he had never seen anyone, including people with brain damage, ever do this before.
Meaning brain damage so they couldn't experience fear.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And not brain damage in the way that I obviously have it, right?
You had trained your body to experience the CO2 through doing the Wim Hof breathing. And again, 3 minutes with after a strong exhale and holding it is long. I went 2 minutes and it was the last 10 seconds were very uncomfortable.
Sure.
But I don't practice the Wim Hof, which I'm going to start. I do practice the dunk. So your system, your immune system. So we have the canker sore thing going on. How about sickness, illness, the flu since you began the cold dunks and the Wim Hof?
So I don't get very sick very often. I don't know if that's just luck or not. But I also bought a sauna. I'm a guy with a sauna now. I take saunas all the time.
How would you typify yourself before this?
Before that, I was living in India and I got sick all the time, but I think that had to also do with the environment.
I think that's a variable.
But I would say in general, I've been pretty healthy, but I definitely feel more robust now, having exposed myself to different stresses. Now, in terms of like COVID and stuff, I think there's a good reasoning to think that these practices can be useful to give you a general immune boost. And while there's people out there who will say that it will cure it, I can't go that far.
No, my feeling is your system is generally stronger, and thus things that would hurt other people will hurt you less. And I'm just doing the math. If you say somebody is compromised, well, that means their system is compromised. So
Sure.
Who can be killed by this thing, or who could be devastated by this? Well, people whose systems are compromised, right? Okay. So it's not like there's compromised and then uncompromised. There could be compromised, uncompromised, and then supersized, Like what I'm saying is not everyone has to live in the middle. There's a small, a medium, and a large. It's not just a large and a medium. And so what I'm saying is strengthen your immune system, and whatever a compromised immune system is, make yours the opposite of a compromised immune system. Right. Not just a fair to middle of the road immune system. And if the thing does get to you, then you're in much better shape. The same way you would be in much better shape if you were in great physical shape and you took a spill on a mountain bike, you would recover more quickly. You'd be less harmed by it. And if you had osteoporosis and brittle bone disease and horrible posture and were a heavy smoker, and you took a spill on a mountain bike, you might be jacked up big time. for a
Right.
long time.
Hmm.
So it's,
Yeah.
look at your immune system as that. I guess. I mean, does
Yeah.
that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. Build general resilience. And I would say that in the terms of where we are right now, we got lucky that the flu that is, or sorry, the COVID, which is a coronavirus, um, is not the Spanish flu, right? Because the Spanish flu killed people who were healthy. It killed mostly like 20 and 30-year-olds whose immune systems were strong.
Mhm.
This one seems to, I mean, there are absolutely cases of healthy people getting sick, and it's pretty, you can absolutely find those, but most of the mortality is with people with diabetes, people with who are heavily overweight, people who have not been exceptionally healthy. So these practices can be beneficial, right? Especially, it's not just diet and exercise; it's diet, exercise, and environment
Yeah.
that you
Well,
that you put yourself into.
you know, I would challenge everyone who's listening now to do this. See if you can, see if you can put together 3 days. Just go 3 days in a row. I know a lot of people go for the month of May, or give me 6 weeks, I'll change your life. I'll tell you the thing about this, what you're talking about when I'm talking about the breathing and the cold dunks. Um, it's not a dimmer switch, it's a toggle switch. You do
Yeah,
that cold dunk, that
exactly.
cold shower, you
Mhm.
do that breathing, it hits you. You feel it. You sleep better that night. You have more
Yeah,
energy that day. When
right.
people start talking about you got to wean yourself off the dairy or whatever it is, like you'll notice over the course of the next few weeks, you'll start to feel, it isn't that. You'll
Right.
feel it that minute, that instant. When you
Mhm.
step out of the shower, you'll feel it that moment.
Yep.
You do the Wim Hof thing. I did the Wim Hof thing on a Saturday. I slept so deeply that night, like it
Mhm.
isn't a give it 6 weeks and tell me if you don't feel something.
No.
You feel something immediately. So
Yes.
what I would say, because I feel like a lot of people struggle with commitment and I don't want to this, do it 3 days in a row. Do the
Sure.
breathing, do the cold shower, 3
Mhm.
days in a row, and tell me what you feel like at the end of those 3 days, because
Yeah.
you're going to feel better, different. You're going to have a ton more energy. And for me, it's as simple as this. If you think about it, a lot of people wake up in the morning and they never really fully wake up, meaning they
Yeah.
kind of drift into
Right.
consciousness. Like I have a
Right.
cup of coffee, I'll check some emails, I'll be in my bathrobe for like, this is like when you step out of that shower, when you're done with the breathing, when
You're
you
up.
climb out of that pool, you're fucking awake. You're
Right.
100% awake.
Mhm.
And then instead of warming into the day, where all right, now it's noon and I'm finally firing on all cylinders, you're
Right.
firing the
Mhm.
second you step out of that shower.
Yeah. Especially while we're under quarantine, right? Like especially right now where everyone's working from home and I can tell that you're wearing pajamas on the bottom right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, if
that
they have pockets, it doesn't, you can leave the house.
yeah, I mean, do things right now that engage you, right? That's the important thing. And you're talking about alertness. Yeah. Like it's going to make you alert when you jump in the cold shower because you're going to get some adrenaline right now. And that's evolution.
I completely agree. The wedge, evolution, consciousness, stress, and the key to human resilience. It is available this Monday, Amazon. You can pre-order now. You can bookmark us and click through our Amazon link. It just helps. And look, people, here's what I will just, my final note will be this. There's a lot that's conspiring against your sanity these days. You can no longer be sort of uh uh, you can't be like Switzerland during a world war. You know what I mean? You're going to have to pick up a fucking rifle, put a bayonet on it, and stab a German. Like you can't just be neutral anymore. If you just sit around and watch the news and listen to the news and wait for Grubhub to show to the door, you're going to go south fast. In the past, you got up, you went to work on a farm, all of nature kept you in check. You wouldn't go insane. You couldn't go insane. You had to get up at 5 every morning and go collect eggs or milk something or till some soil. Now you don't. And so you're going to have to control it yourself. You're going to have to impose it on yourself. You're going to have to grab it with both hands. You're going to have to do it yourself, because if you are passive, then you're along for the ride, and this toboggan is going to hell.
I love it. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. Yeah, let's do this again sometime. And anyone who wants to find out more, scottcarney.com. There's Instagrams and places like that, audiobooks, the whole 9 yards. And this is a blast to talk with you.
Thanks, Scott. Always love it. We'll do it again soon. Gina, Bald, and Dan Dunn after this. Thank you, Scott.
Right. Thanks, Scott.
And now, Alcoa presents the COVID-19 edition of Definitely Not a Jew on the Adam Carolla Show. Dateline, Perpignan, France. A 40-year-old man had to be rescued by helicopter from the mountains between France and Spain after he broke quarantine to cross the border to buy cheaper cigarettes. Definitely not a Jew.
Well, Dan Dunn has joined us. Oh, I lost his bio already, but we'll get into that in a second. Good to see y'all, Gina and Bryan. We're gonna get our booze on, and if you want to join us, you can go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/Adam Carolla, and have a virtual drink with us. Even though we're drinking real booze, and you should be drinking real booze too, but you get my meaning.
Adam, before we take our first sip, can I please propose this become a end of the week tradition as long as we're in this quarantine?
Yeah, we got plenty.
Fakakta. Is that the right word, Gina?
Michigas.
Okay.
Fakakta Michigas.
I'm with you, and you don't have to ask me twice to get drunk while the sun is shining. Let's face it.
Somewhere on the earth.
The only buzzkill literally about the daytime drunk is the stigma attached to it, which is, hey man, what are you doing? The sun's shining outside, but hey, everyone's home. There's nothing to do except for take my dog out for a stumble later. And
the sun's not shining. It's raining.
And last time I took
we're
a walk,
working.
and last time I went out, there was a lamppost and it was unmanned. Nobody was holding it up with a top hat turned down. So I need to go do that. I will, Dan, where are you? Where's your physical home?
Venice, California. I'm not far from Bryan.
We're just
Your
down the
beach
street.
boy.
Yeah.
And Dan, I'm sorry, just the way things are set up, your plug sheet is not in front of me.
I'm happy to talk about myself. I host What We're Drinking with Dan Dunn podcast, available everywhere. I got Aisha Tyler was just on the show. Maynard James Keenan coming up in a week or so.
3 times, fool.
Well,
Yeah, man. And then what else do I do? I host this thing for Flaviar every Thursday night, a live stream for the duration of this. If you go to Flaviar's YouTube channel, I'm on it.
Flaviar is Aisha Tyler's sister, by the way, if people are curious.
Yes,
who Flaviar
exactly.
is.
Three times, fool.
Nutella's her kid brother. All right, so and I'm not even drunk yet. So we're going to make a host of different drinks. It's not as we've done in the past where we just sample different varieties of scotch or vodka. We're going to do a whole bunch of different drinks with mixers and everything else. We'll get
Dan
to that.
bestowed quite the bounty on all of us, quite the cornucopia.
Well, you know
Yes,
what's
he
going
did.
on is here's the thing that's crazy. Everybody's stuck, we're hearing about it, but one business that is booming is alcohol. Numbers came out in March. Liquor sales were up 33% in March over March of last year. So one thing people are doing in quarantine is getting their drink on.
I did Tim Conway's show the other night with Gina Grad.
So
Had a
fun.
good time, just like old times. And there was something I said at the end of the show which made Tim laugh heartily. And so I jotted it down because I realized it was sort of funny, and I thought I'd share it with my audience today. But it's interesting, and I've always been interested in it. I was just talking to Dr. Drew about it off the air earlier today. You guys know I'm always talking about this sort of controlling of language and the working of language and how there's a nonstop working of language. And, homeless people are not homeless people anymore, and there's all these different sort of euphemistic titles for everybody. But I was listening to the news that Gina was delivering.
Yeah,
I think she was
that's
delivering
during my
last
newscast.
night, and talking about how Mayor Garcetti had canceled the Easter egg hunt at so-and-so park.
At all the city parks.
By the way an Easter egg hunt works is you tell every kid to spread out and run the other direction as fast as they can. I don't think there's a lot of danger there, but anyway, he said the park is closed to Easter egg hunting and beyond, but the bathrooms would remain open for people experiencing homelessness. And I said to Tim, where was Garcetti to describe me when I was in high school? Because he could have said
sexlessness.
Yeah, he could have went, he's not a crappy student. He's a student that's experiencing a 1.6 GPA. And then everyone would go, oh, yeah.
I experienced virginity until 21.
Yes. I thought he was a shitty student. No. He's experiencing a 1.6 GPA. Oh, he has. My heart goes out to him.
Tim was crying. And to answer your question, I did tell him, of course he's never done. It's not a bit. This is how Adam thinks.
Well, also, how could it be a bit? I've never heard that term before.
Well,
people who are experiencing homelessness.
Right. The unhoused. I also said, he does this for a living. There's a show called Adam Carolla's Unprepared. He doesn't need a heads up.
But wait a minute. Couldn't we all beat Garcetti at his own game? Couldn't we all go down to the park and take a shit and say, I am experiencing temporary homelessness because I'm not in my home.
I'm outside of my home. Yeah.
I'm experiencing not being in my home.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I
I could do that with Lynette. I'm not experiencing being in you. I'd like to experience being in others temporarily.
I'm lasagna-less.
That's right.
If you could cure that.
Oh,
hey, Adam, I'm experiencing sobriety. Can we do something?
Yeah, you got pretty drunk last night.
Let's do something about it. Right. All right, Dan. Sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. So I wanted to sort of run the gamut here because, who knows what people have. And so I wanted to do a bunch of different flavors. We got a gin, a tequila, a rum, and a bourbon to try today. Also, I got some mixers. I think the thing about mixers that sort of gets left behind is most drinks, your mixer is 70% of your drink is the mixer.
Right.
And when you get shitty mixers, no matter how good the stuff is that you're drinking, shitty mixers make a shitty drink. So I personally, I like Q mixers. There's a ton of mixers out there. I've been drinking Q for years. That for me, it was kind of one of the first ones that ever came along that was a high quality mixer. These are drier. It depends on what you like. I mean, I like Q because they're drier. They're not so sweet. It's all natural. I just watched this doctor talking about how our immune systems are so fucked anyway. And he said a lot of it has to do with our diet, like high fructose corn syrup, all that. This has none of that. And it's also probably the most bubbly of the mixers. So if you like a lot of carbonation in your mixer, Q's the way to go. So you want to get into some gin first, guys?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, we will defer to you, Dan. You pick the order, the mix, whatever you like.
We should start with gin. And the gin that I have chosen for today is Sipsmith gin, okay, which is a London dry gin. Gin's become synonymous with the UK, even though it was invented by the Dutch, and they called it Genever.
Oh.
And what gin really is the world's first flavored vodka. It's a neutral grain spirit that's flavored with juniper and other botanicals.
Are we opening the tonic, by the way?
You can open it. I don't know if do you guys want to try it? Do you want to try it? I mean, gin's not something that you necessarily.
But let's experience it neat.
Let's try it neat. It's not something that I would recommend. I mean, gin's, not something that's meant to be drunk neat.
Brian loves gin.
Yeah, this is fantastic. This is exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, in this one, if you
should we pour it over ice or go neat with it?
I would go neat.
Cup?
What I would do is go neat, try it, then we'll put ice in it, and then we'll put the tonic in there.
Can I tell you? Sorry, go ahead, Gina.
I was just going to say, I'm generally not a gin person. This is delicious. It's very clean.
It's
Usually it's like an overpowering pine.
It has an olive-y kind of flavor to it.
It's delicious.
You
Oh,
getting
yeah.
olives?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's very dry. I think this one I get a little bit of lemon tart thing going, and
It's good on its own.
it really is, right? Yeah.
Can I tell you a gin-based killing spree I wanted to go on last weekend?
Please.
I have told many people the only thing about this period, the sequestration we're going through, is the one thing I miss is going out to dinner with a friend, going out for a good steak and a martini. All the other parts, all the other facets of this, I can tolerate. The one I miss the most is going to a nice steak joint and ordering some martinis and a ribeye. I decided to simulate that with a mandate last weekend. So I told Matt DeAndrea, you fly and I will buy. We're going to order shrimp cocktail. We're going to order steaks. We're going to order sides. We're going to order everything we can from the best steakhouse on the west side. You are going to pick it up. You are going to meet me at my warehouse. We're going to put some music on, and we're going to pretend like we're out having a steak.
Wow, romantic.
Very romantic. Yeah.
I
Get
know.
a violinist.
And then I thought, wait a minute, what's missing? And then I thought the martini is missing. And I said to myself, well, you know what? Chris Morgan gave me all the ingredients of this kick-ass martini he does. He gave me the gin, he got the vermouth, he gave me the olives, he gave me all the stuff I needed. So I looked it up online, like here's how much vermouth, and here's how much gin, and here's how much whatever. And I thought, do I have martini shakers? And I thought, yeah, I got martini shakers. They're at the other shop. And I thought, wait a minute, do I have ice? And I go, oh yeah, 10 ice cube trays in the freezer. So I went, okay. I got together all the martini mix-ins. I went to the other shop. I found the shaker. I cleaned it all out. I looked at it, looked online again. At a certain point, I opened the refrigerator. I go into the freezer. Oh, there's the ice cube tray. Oh, it's empty. It's back in the freezer, but it's empty. So I go, oh, it doesn't matter. There's 6 more. The one beneath it, empty. The one beneath that, empty. They're fucking 7 empty ice cube trays in the goddamn freezer at my shop. And I'm like, somebody's using ice cubes. Who puts back? Why are they putting a 100% empty ice cube tray back into a freezer? I started thinking, do ice cubes go away? Do they
evaporate?
No.
No,
not in the freezer. Not in the freezer.
Well, I am not. I'm saying. I mean, maybe over the course of 14 years, but not for somebody who's using ice cubes, who I pay money to. That person is using ice cubes and putting empty ice cube trays back into the freezer, and now there's a stack of 7 of them, and they were all empty. And I was just sitting there going, well, fuck, how do I have a martini without the shaker and the ice cubes? And then how long is it going to take to make ice cubes? And it fucked my shit all up. Anyway, a pox on whoever did it, and I will find the person who did it.
But you still got lucky with Matt later, right?
I dropped the fucking digit on his head.
Cool.
Yeah.
Put on some music.
Yeah.
All right, well, that gin was delicious on its own.
I want to tell you why I chose gin, first of all, because the history of gin, if you look at gin, it always pops up in drinks that are designed to cure. So when the Brits went to India in the mid-1800s, the gin and tonics spiked because the tonic water was to avoid malaria, okay? So they would put that in there, and it helped, right, avoid malaria. The Royal Navy used to mix gin with lime juice to prevent scurvy. Mm-hmm. Gin is a drink that repeatedly pops up to help battle. So I'm not saying gin's going to cure you.
Dr. Dan.
What I'm hearing is gin will cure coronavirus.
Gin could cure. So this one, Sipsmith, is a London dry gin. It was established in 2009, so it's a kind of a new one, but it's the first copper pot distillery in London in 200 years, okay? It's a classic. You guys got it already? You tried it?
Yeah,
delicious.
Great.
Classic.
Yeah, is it the quinine? Is it quinine that's in the tonic? That
quinine's in the tonic. Yeah, that's what gives that distinctive flavor of tonic.
I think it helps with scurvy as well, perhaps.
It does, yeah. And this one is good. Like I said, it's good for gin and tonic, which we're having now. Great in a Negroni. which is a very, very popular drink now. If you have a vermouth and Campari at home, you can make it this. And also a Tom Collins, man.
Yeah.
In lemon
All
juice,
right.
maple syrup. Yeah.
Shall we mix some of the juice? Sorry, the gin and juice. Should we mix some of the tonic with the gin now? If you guys
I'm
tried
already
that?
I'm way ahead of you.
I'm not there yet.
Careful. That is bubbly. That is a fizzy waterfall.
Q is the bubbliest.
Yeah.
It's the bubbliest, most carbonated mixers I think out there, which makes for great for a highball.
How
And
much? How much
Cheers.
is this bottle of gin?
What was the question again, Adam?
Price on the gin bottle?
Oh, the Sipsmith's $33.
Oh, that's,
Yeah,
that's
everything
reasonable.
we're having today, people are out of work, doing nothing. Every once in a while, I'll bring in some expensive shit for us to try in studio. Everything we're having today is under $50.
Good for you.
This is
Yeah,
delicious.
this is,
Make the
this
tonic.
is-
$33.
Yeah,
And
Dan, is this a safe statement? I feel like restaurants with their margarita mix and the mixers in general, especially see it with Bloody Marys, people have had to up their game. It used to just be an orange bottle with some corn syrup and some red dye number 7 in it coming out of the hose. Right now they're doing when you look at Bloody Marys, just Bloody Marys at the airport, like the fucking mix is 10 times better than margaritas too. When you go out for Mexican food, they've had to up their game, and I love it. So,
Well, and again, it's what I said earlier. Like, we can all agree, Sipsmith's a great gin. You put it with a shitty mixer, don't matter. No matter how good it is, it's not going to hold up. You gotta do that unless you don't care. But I care.
Adam, I know it's a recurring theme on the show and really of your life that there are things you've made your peace with that you just don't like, that the rest of the people or the majority of the people have decided we like this thing, please get out of our face. For me, that thing is tonic. I hate tonic, and I'm not going to try to convince anyone it's terrible because apparently everyone likes tonic. I just don't like. Is anyone else?
What is it about it that you don't like?
I don't
'Cause
know.
It's so mild.
It's astringent. It's bitter. I don't know.
It's
Weird.
somebody
Weird.
do something to you with a tonic bottle when you were young?
Somebody beat you with a bag of
I
tonic. bottle?
wish.
no, tonic isn't friendly. Like kids, you can do everything through the taste buds of kids. Kids like grape juice. They wouldn't like tonic. You know what I mean? And there's certain things that there's many boozes that taste weird. There's cigars, pussy, all the stuff you kind of grow into. But kids don't like it. So, but here's what I'm saying. I will forgive people their taste foibles because everyone has that thing that they never grew into.
Yeah.
Like I never liked, when I was 9, I didn't like mushrooms. Now I like mushrooms. I could never do liver though. I never grew into liver. I was never able to figure out liver. And so tonic is just one of those things.
I never grew into olives of any kind.
There you go.
What else would you use tonic for besides a cocktail? I can't even think of
That's it.
It's it, right? A gin and tonic. What else
Right.
are you using tonic for?
No, I don't like
Nothing.
tonic in cocktails.
Gina, you don't like black olives? Because
No
black
olives.
olives, hold on. Black olives are like inert versus green. Green olives are the tonic of the olive world. Like they've got some bite.
Black olives are worse than green olives.
Really?
Yes.
They're almost
It's
tasteless.
just kind of salty.
No, because my best friend, when I was little, used to get her mom would get the canned ones and she'd put them all over her fingers and eat them off. And I wanted to throw up every time I saw
all
that.
right. Well, that's
But
you
but
were traumatized by
I lived in
an
Greece.
olive.
I lived in Greece. There were all olives. I could have had all the Kalamata, all the olives I wanted. They just don't taste good to me.
No, but I look, I don't go, well, yeah, I don't like liver because my uncle would rub it on his dick before he fucked me in the ass. That's
No,
not me
but I'm
not
saying they were always-
liking liver.
They were
You were raped by olives.
I wasn't right. They were
That's
always
why I like
offered to
liver.
me.
But
They were offered to me. I tried them. I cannot get them down.
black olives are totally inert. Like if you put black olives on your pizza, you almost can't even tell what's on your pizza.
There's like a sickly, buttery taste to it that I just can't get past. But I love olive oil, but not olives.
Oh,
Speaking of
all right.
olives, Ace, when you talk about a martini, are you a twist guy or are you an olive guy in your martinis?
I go with
Careful here.
so for instance, Chris Morgan, Fast and Furious Chris Morgan, seems to know his way around a martini, and I just order what he orders, and he gets the olives. I think he even gets the blue cheese olives. So that's what I do with him. But when I'm on my own, if I was with you and you like a twist, I'd go with the twist. I
Wait,
go with I
you're
dance
saying
with who
put the
brung
blue
me.
cheese. He puts a blue cheese olive in the martini.
I think he
Yeah,
does.
that's kind of common, Dan.
I
Oh,
know
Dan
people
doesn't
do
seem
it, but for
happy.
me, that blue cheese is so pungent. It's
Yes.
so powerful that once you eat it, I feel like it's gonna just fuck up the martini after that. Personally,
Yeah, whatever. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of booze, a bunch
Still
of
get
cheese,
drunk.
and a bunch of olives. I don't care what order it's in. Oh, hey, sorry,
Yeah.
but that did remind me. I don't want to divert from our booze-a-thon here, but I was watching Sylvester Stallone's Daylight last night. And I'll tell you, say what you want about what's going on, but a little buzz in a Stallone movie from the 90s,
Oh,
especially a little off the beaten path. You know, when Rocky or Rambo comes on, so be it. But when Daylight comes on, Stallone trapped in a tunnel with a young Viggo Mortensen, by the way.
Really?
People forget he was in that movie, he sort of co-starred in that movie. Also, he found love in that tunnel as well. But either way, I was looking at it, and at the end, and I have to have you all experience this man's wiki page. At the end, it said directed by Rob Cohen. And I went, Rob Cohen? Wait a minute, I know a Rob Cohen. He's been into the studio before. He's done some work with Kimmel and The Simpsons. And I think Rob Cohen is who Millhouse is drawn after or
Really?
inspired Millhouse.
really?
I think. Anyway, the point is this. I know a Rob Cohen. He's a director. I don't think he directed this movie. Would have been a little young. But who is this person? So I did a little wiki dive on the director of Rob Cohen on Stallone's Daylight, 1996. I'm just going to have, it'll be a little laborious, a little bit, but I'm just going to have Dawson read this guy's wiki page from the top, and you tell me if something's ever started off better and goes further south at the end. It's
Wow.
just, this is me, 1:15 in the AM last night, a little buzz, just looking up who's Rob
Okay.
Cohen. Go ahead, Dawson.
Rob L. Cohen is an American director, producer, and screenwriter of film and television. Beginning his career as an executive producer at 20th Century Fox, Cohen produced and developed numerous high-profile film and television programs, including The Wiz, The Witches of Eastwick, and Light and Day, before concentrating full-time on directing in the 1990s. His directorial credits include action films such as Triple X and the first, The Fast and the Furious.
Now
along
I'm
with the
in. Now I'm like, ooh, he did the. Ooh, I love that franchise. He did the first one.
Oh, he did. Yeah. Look at that.
All right, things are going swimmingly. Keep going.
Along with fantasy films like Dragonheart and The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Early life and career. Cohen was born in Cornwall, New York. He attended Harvard University and graduated magna cum laude in the class of 1971 after
Not
transferring
too shabby.
from Amherst College after 2 years.
Oh, Drew went to Amherst. You
Lord,
got a picture
yes.
where I'm at this whole time. Yeah.
Concentrating in a cross major between anthropology and visual studies. His first endeavor in filmmaking was a commissioned recruiting film for Harvard Admissions Office in 1970, which became his senior thesis. He is Jewish. He is 5'7" tall. Upon graduation, Cohen immediately headed to Los Angeles to work as a screenwriter for Martin Juro, but soon found himself unemployed when the producer moved out of state. After a 6-month stint as a kennel boy at the Harvey Animal Hospital in West Hollywood to make ends meet, Cohen landed a job as a reader for then-agent Mike Medavoy. 6 weeks into his tenure at International Famous Agency, now part of ICM, he distinguished himself by discovering an unheralded script he found in a slush pile of neglected screenplays. Recognizing its quality, commerciality, and
who wrote this? Tolstoy?
Cohen wrote in his coverage that it was the great American screenplay and that this will make an award-winning, major cast, major director film. He championed the piece relentlessly with his own job at stake. As Medavoy said, he would try to sell it on that recommendation, but promising to fire Cohen if he could not. Universal bought it that afternoon for a record price, and it became the Academy Award-winning movie, The Sting.
This guy's a winner.
Whoa.
The winner by all accounts and any measuring stick. But keep going.
Keep going. Get to the other
keep going.
Wow.
Producing. With a career in film and television spanning more than 40 years, Cohen has distinguished himself as a celebrated screenwriter, producer, and director. In 1973, 20th Century Fox hired Cohen as head of current programming, helping out with, among other shows, the first year of the epic hit MASH. Eager to push Fox into long form, Cohen called the head of ABC and introduced himself as the head of television movies at Fox. Barry Diller gave him a meeting where he sold 2 TV films on the spot, properties he had found in the voluminous books of Fox's unproduced properties. A week later, he duplicated that feat at CBS under Barry Philip Barry. Fox president William Edwin Self was not happy that a junior employee had garnered these commitments without permission, but grudgingly gave Cohen the title Vice President of TV Movies.
All right. This guy is born under a lucky star, number one. He's got a 4-leaf clover between his butt cheeks, and he's a wonderkind. He can do no wrong. I don't know how much is between here and the bottom, Dawson, but you can skip to some of the more recent
section described sexual abuse allegations. Go to that section.
Oh, no. Brian, why'd you do it?
No way, I'm seeing what's going on here. Ace is like, you know what? Let's read this so we can drink more.
There's a little bit here on directing.
Yeah,
read the whole thing.
There, and then the last paragraph.
All right, read the whole thing then. We'll get to the whole thing. Sorry.
Read the whole thing.
Okay. From 1990 onwards, Cohen moved into directing full-time. Much success followed with the early 1990s films such as Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, Dragonheart, Daylight, and the Golden Globe Award-winning The Rat Pack. At 52, Cohen had become an action director, directing the 2001 film The Fast and the Furious. The film was a hit, opening with $40 million its first weekend, starring relative unknowns Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. With the success of The Fast and Furious, Cohen partnered up with Vin Diesel again the following year to direct Triple X. In 2008, he directed the third installment of The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, grossing $401 million worldwide, and he directed Blumhouse Productions' The Boy Next Door, starring Jennifer Lopez in 2015. Cohen is also a director of commercials, housed at Original Film, having made over 150 television commercials for products such as Disney, Star Wars, Verizon, Ford, GM, Mercedes, Chevy, Saab, and Burger King, among many others. On February 21st, 2019, Cohen's transgender daughter, Valkyrie Weather, accused Cohen of sexually assaulting her as a child, as well as sexually assaulting another woman. Weather further claimed that Cohen had taken her to visit sex workers in Thailand and the Czech Republic when she was 13, supposedly in an attempt to turn her straight. Although Cohen categorically denied these claims in a later statement, Diana Mitzner, Cohen's first wife and Weather's mother, confirmed that she had witnessed at least one incident of sexual assault against Weather as a child. Another allegation of sexual assault.
Hold on. The point is I was moving along at a nice pace with this man's accomplishments. I did not know part of his accomplishments was taking his transitioning son/daughter on a sexual tourist vacation. Now, things like these allegations are crazy because it's one thing to say, well, you know, we're in a jacuzzi and my hand slipped, but you got to go to Thailand, right?
That's a plane ticket.
You had to buy tickets.
Yeah.
And this is not garden variety sexual abuse. This is, just read that top line one more. It's his daughter who is transitioning into being his son, taken to these places in order to try to change their mind.
Wait, are you sure it wasn't a son transitioning to a daughter?
Well, this is the problem, because they go the son, but sometimes when they say this, like what we were talking about with Dwayne Wade, they go, his son is transitioning, and it's like his son isn't transitioning, his daughter is transitioning into his son.
I'm using my Adam Carolla brain, thinking I've never heard of in my life a father taking his daughter to go to a male escort to keep her straight as a female.
This is almost certainly a man to a boy. Also, because you guys can't see this, but on the Wikipedia page, it's quote, turn her straight, but her is in brackets so as to like replace him, you know, the actual quote.
So he tried to get his son a bunch of prostitutes he wasn't interested in, said, I'm not really feeling male. I need to do something about this.
I guess I didn't know where to begin with it. I was like, sorry.
Either way.
Read the top again. What it says about her or the daughter.
Cohen's transgender daughter, Valkyrie Weather, accused Cohen of sexually assaulting her as a child, as well as sexually assaulting another woman. Weather further claimed that Cohen had taken her to visit sex workers in Thailand and the Czech Republic when she was 13, supposedly in an attempt to turn her straight.
All right. So her is a he now.
Right.
Is that correct?
No, other way around.
Other way around.
Other way around. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Was a boy.
Right. So if you find Valkyrie now, it's a girl?
That's
I
my
guess.
guess.
I would think so.
Well, we gotta know. Anyway, never has a wiki page taken such a turn. Like I was delighted. I was delighted to know. Well, first off, he worked on The Wiz. The Wiz was a movie I saw with my grandfather in 1976 at the Writers Academy Theater. So my first thought was, oh yeah, I remember Pappy and us watching The Wiz back in 1976 when I was a young man. Then it turned to Fast and Furious, and I was like, oh, the first one. I love that guy. And then it turned into this. But Max Bada?
I got it.
Weather is a 32-year-old woman who was born Kyle Cohen.
Yeah.
So
this says, my name is Valkyrie Weather, born Kyle Cohen, the oldest child and trans daughter of film producer, director Robert Cohen, the Fast and the Furious, XXX, Hurricane Heist. When I was very young, Rob used my body for his...
Oh, and I forgot. Did you get Hurricane Heist in there, Dawson? Because I went and saw that movie in the theater.
That's just his
Oh,
most
my
recent
friend-
one.
They do. They have it listed in his filmography.
Oh, below, right.
2018, The Hurricane Heist.
All right.
So
So
you're drinking right now.
I'm
The
gonna
amount
drink.
of
I've been drinking the whole time. But
Hey,
so
Guess what it says on Valkyrie's page in her bio? Sapphic knight errant, wastelander, transgender, leftist, badass, sex worker.
Oh.
Oh.
To
But
bring
could
this
that
all
be like-
full
Can you text that to me?
Yeah, could that be like sex surrogate, like we were going over?
Yeah,
with
maybe.
Emily Morse?
Maybe.
It
Okay.
is-
So
it
What's
is
happening
very.
with sex workers now in the age of coronavirus? Do you think they're still coming in to people's houses?
Virtual cam
Right.
girls.
Make some calls, Dan.
So are we assuming that he then took his then son into Thailand to be with a prostitute? Is that
That's
what
what I
we're
think.
That
assuming?
makes a lot of sense. Yes.
I've never heard of, in all the wildest stories I've ever heard, I've never
No.
heard of the opposite happening.
Yeah, for sure. He
Well-
brought his son to be with some women. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what she is saying is sexual assault. But
think
she's
so.
saying he committed assault on her, but that's the assault.
He
Yeah,
also
I mean,
says
I-
as well as sexually assaulting another woman. It says here.
Anyway, that's why you have to get to the bottom of everyone's wiki page. I'm scared to get to the bottom of mine. I don't know what's there. I don't
I'll
want
never
to
look
know.
at Millhouse the same way again.
Different Rob Cohen, but 13, at 13,
Yes.
because my boy Sonny is 13, and I feel like he hasn't declared a major sexually yet.
Oh.
Not there.
Hold on. Sonny, gas up the van. We're going to Thailand. Sorry.
Tijuana's closer.
Go ahead.
At the bottom of Adam's Wikipedia page, it says future crimes.
Potential crime. All right. Sorry.
Let's get
Go
back
ahead.
to drinking.
Yes.
Anybody ready for some tequila?
Yes.
I love it. Yeah, here we go. Holy. Okay, so we're done with the chin.
Hold on, Chris. Was Rob Cohen Millhouse, or am I making that up?
You're right. It's the Rob Cohen that came in our studio was Millhouse. You can see the picture.
Wow.
Wow, there he is. All right, so I'm just going to assume that he just molested everyone as well. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's fair.
I'm going to be fair.
Even-handed.
Oh,
Sorry.
tequila.
Dan, please take it
All
away.
right, so hey, I don't want to interrupt you. That part of it. So we've had tequila and mezcal on the show before. I brought it in, just so everybody knows the difference between tequila and mezcal. Since we just had some gin, let's think about it like the liquors of the British Isles. Tequila is more like gin. It's clean, refined, consistent. Mezcal is more like scotch. It's smoky, funky,
Yeah.
unpredictable, made by crazy people. So this one here, the tequila that we're having right now is El Tesoro, classic. The distillery La Alteña Distillery was established in Jalisco in 1937 by Don Felipe Camarena. Today, his grandson, Carlos Camarena, is a master distiller. He's like a legend in the business. The rest of what we're going to have today is made by legends in the business. He's the master distiller. What's great about El Tesoro Blanco, and we're drinking Blanco, by the way, and I think I've talked to you guys about this before. The reason I like Blanco as opposed to aged tequilas is I really like to taste the agave. Mm-hmm. This goes into the bottle immediately after they distill it, okay? There's no time in wood. You're getting no wood influence on this at all. So all you're getting is the agave flavor. By the way, the other thing that's great about this is, have you guys heard of a Tahona wheel?
No.
So the Tahona wheel is the way they used to mash the agave, okay? It was like you'd have a donkey and a giant stone wheel. And they would
Hold on. This isn't the Mexico I know. I thought everything was stainless steel, titanium, and state of the art.
Hydraulic.
No. So there'd be a pole in the middle, and the wheel goes around, and the donkey would pull the wheel, and they just throw all the agave, and that's how they mash it up, and the liquid would come out the bottom. That's how they do it. Wow. Very few distilleries still use that traditional Tahona crushing system, but El Tesoro does. So let's try it. I think we should try it neat first.
Yeah, we're looking at it. Boy, a lot of the thing as I reflect on Mexico, lot of range in the donkey world. Here in the United States, there's only so much a donkey can do in these modern times. You know what I'm saying? You go down to Griffith Park, a kid gets on you and you walk in a circle. That's pretty much the highs and the lows of being a donkey. In Mexico, you could walk in a circle until you die making booze for alcoholics, or you could go down to Tijuana and get involved with the action. You know what I'm saying? But either way, a huge chasm in what they use donkey for, whereas we basically have no use. We have like an ornamental donkey use. You know what I mean? It's kind of
a gimmick. You're a novelty.
Yeah,
the darkest episode I've ever done with you guys. I'm just going to say that right now. We've gone child molestation in Thailand. Now we're going sex shows in Tijuana.
Yeah,
I love
we have
it.
range, Dan.
I do this more often. Okay, so we got this tequila. Again, if you're gonna just do the pure expression of it, if you guys want to try to take a little bit of the nose, and so distinct, right? Agave is such a distinct smell.
Yeah,
it's like bright and tart.
Well, by the way, Gina, what's funny is I'm getting green olive on the nose.
Oh, never.
You're not getting
So, three questions. One is, when I order a margarita, I always get salt. Who are the people who don't like salt on their margarita? Do we have any of those?
It offsets that sour.
Yeah, it's the best. I don't know the people like, I don't want salt in my margarita. That's kind of what makes it a margarita, what helped make it a margarita. Number two, we always have this discussion against, is it tequila, is it mezcal, tequila? Just define the three. There's mezcal, there's tequila, and there's mezcal tequila. Is that correct, or correct me?
No, the only there was a Sammy Hagar and Adam Levine did a thing called what was it called? Mesqui. It was a combination of
tequila
and mezcal. I forget the name of it. Remember it at a Santo Domingo, something like that. No, for the most part, it's different. So here's the difference in terms of classification. There's several differences, but tequila has to be made only from one strain of agave called blue agave, Weber agave. It's the only kind. There's 160 different kinds of agave you can use. The only one that can be used is tequila. To make tequila is the Weber agave. How that happened was mezcal came first. Okay, mezcal was the thing that started it all. The town of Tequila found that they could make the best tasting mezcal, and they pushed eventually to get their own category called tequila. So for the most part, in order to be called tequila, it has to be made in the state of Jalisco in Mexico. There's a couple little outliers that can be in there as well. That's one of the rules. But for the most, mezcal can be made with any kind of agave. And generally it is. Like mezcal is made by small producers. It's all little farmers all over the place. And now that it's starting to get popular, big companies are coming in and they're buying up the mezcal from all these small producers. Tequila has been industrialized a long time ago, and you got the Cuervos and this, that, and the other thing. So that would be the main difference. Would be the
So are we drinking tequila or mezcal?
Tequila. The El Tesoro is a tequila.
Straight tequila. And also, am I right to say that in the 80s, people started to really hip it up with the gold? Like when I was 23 and people wanted the good stuff, they'd get the Cuervo.
No, but the gold is shit. It's a mix. It's not even 100% agave tequila. It's a mixed tequila, which means 51% can be that, and then they can just put a bunch of shit in it.
Right. So the
gold.
The real hot top shelf stuff is clear.
All
right.
This El Tesoro is 100%. It's estate grown too, which means they grow all of their agave on their own estate. So it's complete control of what they're doing. A lot of what happens in Mexico, and I'm not saying that's bad, is there's independent farmers, just like in the wine business, Adam, like they're buying, they're sourcing their grapes from different farmers. That happens a lot. This one happens to be all estate. So they grow their own agave. They make everything from their own agave. And I think it's a great one. Now, what I'd like to do, we should do here, who has the grapefruit? Who has the Q grapefruit?
I have that.
All the guys do.
Yeah. Gina, you can have mine.
So Gina, you can do it with club soda. I'm going to do it. So, Brian, what's the name of the drink? We're doing tequila and grapefruit. What's the drink?
I don't actually know the answer to that. What is it?
Ace?
There'd
be a quiz.
Let's see.
Tequila and grapefruit.
Well,
I know.
Vodka and grapefruit is a greyhound.
Yes.
So this is a gray donkey.
That's it. The gray donkey.
Paloma.
Paloma. That's what we're doing. A Paloma, which is, by the way, one of the best brunch drinks you can have. Like
we do it on ice. Sorry.
Do it on ice. Just do the El Tesoro and the Q grapefruit, which again, why I love this is the bubbles on that. I love this at brunch. This is a great brunch drink. I'm probably going to do brunch in 6 months with somebody.
Hey, Dan, have you ever heard of a pink panty?
Gina, please.
Yeah, I got some in my drawer.
I thought that was kind of the high school street name for a Paloma. It's just tequila and grapefruit. Isn't that a pink panty?
If you say so. You went to school, I guess. So let's try the Paloma here. Well, you're doing soda, right, Gina?
Yeah.
All right, let's.
Oh God.
Chris.
That's
damn, that is good.
Isn't that good?
I am so refreshed.
No,
that is dynamite. I gotta say, I'm in my theater right now, and I'm thinking of going full Howard Hughes. Like I'm just gonna lock the door. I'm gonna start urinating in these bottles as I go through them.
Kleenex boxes for shoes.
Yeah, Lynette's gonna go like, I got Toll House cookies. Slide them under the door. You know the rules.
Take 2 steps back.
I'm watching Daybreak.
Well, normally we have to do this in the studio, and I'm always acutely aware that I have to get home. I'm already home. So
right, already home. I'm just going to watch Daybreak on a loop. I'm going to drink tequila. I'm going to urinate in bottles and ask for Toll House cookies. All right, hold your roll there for a second, Dan. Let me just hit Omaha Steaks. Well, you stuck inside? Yeah, we're stuck inside, but we're having a good time. Little tequila and some Omaha Steaks, man, delivered right to your door. They have a huge variety of family favorites, and you don't have to leave your home. And right now, they have a limited time. You can they have a little stock up sale. How about that? Just for our listeners, go to omahasteaks.com, enter Adam, and do it at the search bar. Unlock unique savings for my listeners. I love these guys. I had the steaks last night. The stuff it's better than it needs to be. I'll tell you, it's super high quality. And I told you, the thing I miss most is going out and having a steak, but you can stay in and have a steak with Omaha Steaks. There's a variety of ready-to-ship boxes available now, and you enter Adam in the search bar, and you save over 50% on your order and get free shipping as well on orders over $69. It's Omaha Steaks. Right, Dawson?
We love Omaha Steaks and our fans so much that we're giving away 10 boxes to the first 10 people who tweet us a picture of their Omaha Steaks receipt using the code ADAM so that you can gift a box to your family or friends completely on us. That's right. Tweet in a picture of your receipt using the code ADAM, and the Ace Man himself will send your loved one an entire box of premium Omaha Steaks. Again, never been a better time to stock up on Omaha Steaks. Stock up sale going on right now with ready-to-ship packages. Save 50% or more. Plus shipping on orders of $69 or more. That's omahasteaks.com. Type in Adam at their search bar.
Sorry for stepping on you there, Dawson. Hey, Gina, good news. I think we're just going to drink right through your news.
All
So,
right.
Yes.
we'll take a quick
Oh, I'm
break.
sorry, Gino. I love the news.
We'll come back with more drinks and Dan right after this. All right, Dan Dunn is hanging out with us. I found your bio, Dan, so that's good. So I can give you your plugs. I just read down to the bottom of your bio. Wow, this is uncomfortable, Dan.
Never read the bottom.
Let's just push ahead here. I'll give you the plugs.
Keep going.
I'll stick to the top half. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know. She never told me. Yeah.
This tequila, and I'm sorry, what was it called, Gina Grand? Or
the Paloma.
yeah, delectable, man.
And because we haven't asked yet, what'll that put us back? This El Tesoro.
Oh, the El Tesoro. Let me check that. I got my stuff. This is great too.
But we know it's under 50.
So the El Tesoro is the most expensive thing we had today, which is $45. And I got to tell you, for that price, this is a steal. You know, it's one of the, again, Carlos Camarena just knows how to make tequila, man. Like the balance is there. Everything, there's just a perfect balance between the spiciness of it and the grassiness of it, the earthiness of it. And it just really goes well in cocktails. Like you said, this one's probably my favorite brunch cocktail there is. So
yeah, delectable.
Beautiful.
You guys want to do some rum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Got a little Appleton Estates. Oh, Appleton Estate. So Appleton Estate is the oldest rum distillery in Jamaica. It's been around since 1749. We all know that rum originated in Jamaica 400 years. It was the number one drink in the United States for a very long time. This one that we have here from Appleton Estate, I'm excited about this because it's not even out yet. It's coming out next week. We're the first ones trying this.
Hell yeah.
I have not even tried it yet. This is a brand new 8-year-old reserve from the master blender at Appleton Estate, Joy Spence. And Gina, I want to tell you this right here. Joy Spence, since you're the only woman on the panel today.
Yes.
Joy Spence is a legend. She's been at Appleton Estate since 1981. In 97, she became the first master blender in the entire spirits industry.
Oh.
Which is crazy. 1997, she became the master blender at Appleton Estate, first one in the entire spirits industry. Okay,
Phenomenal.
So this is her baby. This is great. I take a nose on this first. Just man.
Yeah, it's not rum sort of as you know it. It's more complex, I think, than the rum you're sort of used to drinking.
Well, that's the thing, Ace. Is every rum in this mix has been aged at least 8 years. So we've talked about this before on the show. When you see an age designation on a bottle, that age is the age of the youngest. In this case, rum in the blend. There's probably there are some older rums in this. Youngest one's 8 years old. So you're getting all that wood on there, the oak, and you get that spicy fruit thing that comes through from the oak.
Yes.
Honey and vanilla. We've talked about that before, how wood imparts vanilla flavor. Anybody getting a little orange peel on this?
Yeah.
Citrusy.
It's got a little burnt match to it, too. Like that smell right after you put out a match. If you ever smell a match after it's been lit.
I love that.
Smell it's a little charcoaly or something.
Yeah.
What's crazy about rum is because it's aged in Jamaica, the aging process, it's like 3 times more quickly because of the climate.
3 times, fool.
Interesting.
Right, 3 times, fool. So you're getting like these richer, fuller flavors that come because of the heat makes it go, and the heat makes it extract more from the wood as well. So this one's delicious. This is ready. Take a guess. Let's go around. Adam, what do you think this is, a bottle?
Well, we know it's under 50.
Yeah.
And it's got a rubber cork and a plastic top, which I don't think we need to deduct points from these days, but it also makes me think it's always a little less expensive. You're asking me, so I'm going to go on the cheaper side. Well, I don't know. It's nice looking. I'm going to go $39.
I'll go a little lower, $29.99.
37.
Well, Brian, for the
Hey.
win, $29.
Oh.
That is a good price for this. And I'm having a philosophical thought, but I'm tasting all these various liquors, and we're talking about the nuance. We're talking about the hints of this and the notes of that, right?
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, like, I always think of sort of cultures, and I think of like cultures I like, cultures I don't like, and I think the cultures I like are sort of nuanced cultures, like you sit around and you really pick out the specific differences in all these little these offerings. You know what I mean? And we're all, because what we're all doing is we're getting super granular. Like we're just going, oh, here's the little this and here's the nuance of that, and it's all very nuanced versus chug chug chug. And I thought, I don't know, but it's like I think if you found a group that really found the nuance in their booze or the nuance in their music, I feel like that's a group I could hang with. Like that's a culture I could hang with, And there's something about us which we love this nuance. We like, because the reality is the difference between Beefeater gin and our Sipsmith gin is probably not that much to most people, but to us, we're digging down on it, and I like that. Like I like that. It's one of those things where it's like you're out of problems. You're done looking for clean water. You're done looking for shelter and sustenance when you get to really drill down on these little subtle differences.
You can refine your gin.
Well, I can tell you this. I get a ton of interaction from fans from your show after we do these segments. I mean, people are constantly writing me on Instagram, Twitter, going, they ask me questions. I'm amazed at how much people geek out about this. Like they'll send me and they'll go, I like this, but this flavor component is so much different than it. And that's it. It's exactly what you're saying, Adam, is like, there's if you appreciate, why do it if you're not going to appreciate the differences in it? Like there are people that are just going to go, fuck it, let me slug this. They're called alcoholics,
Yeah.
People that are and figured out. And so let's do this now. I want to try this. And this brings up an interesting thing. So if we take the ginger beer, we put the ginger beer into this rum. This is sort of a variation on the dark and stormy. Okay.
Oh, hold on a second. Let's see. I have the tonic. I have the club.
Purple cap.
You got the ginger beer?
I somehow missed.
Should have it. Yeah.
I missed that. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I dropped it in.
Come on, buddy.
Oh, I have ginger beer. Mine's in a can.
Yes, those.
So pour the ginger beer in here. So here's the thing about this. This is, again, when I say a variation on, we've all heard the drink, the dark and stormy.
Right.
I have a crazy story here. There's a rum called Gosling's rum, Gosling's dark rum. Okay, it's from Bermuda. Gosling's trademarked the name dark and stormy. It just simply does not happen in the.
Yeah, that's not very gentlemanly. That's not very sportsmanlike.
Ooh.
They said they created this drink and somehow they were able to trademark it, and they're very litigious. They're extremely litigious about people calling anything made with dark rum. And again, this is an aged rum as opposed to a dark rum, so it's a variation. But you call it a dark and stormy and it's not made with Goslings, they will go after you, which is crazy.
Wow. Then we're calling this one a dark and damp.
Calling this dark and damp.
Good name for GSV. The ginger beer. So to be fair to me, I brought up this container and I'd thrown the beer in it and it was low enough to go beyond the top edge of it, so I couldn't find it in there. The ginger beer is great tasting, and I think it's because you can taste the ginger. Like you can really taste the root of the ginger. It's not masked over with corn syrup. So
and again, this is continuing to go back to that point I made. Shitty mixers, they're using stuff that are made in fucking labs in Newark, New Jersey. Q's using real ginger. It's such a difference. Like it's such a difference in the cocktail.
Dan, to your point, you must be able to confirm this. I've heard this from 1,000 different bartenders that a lot of restaurants, if you ask for a ginger ale, they don't have ginger ale, but they do have Coke and Sprite, and they'll combine them and tell you it's a ginger ale.
Ugh.
Have you heard that?
That's pretty gross.
I'm not, but I'll strangle somebody that ever does that to me.
So it's that kind of taste you can't really put your finger on. That's why.
Let me take a beat here and tell you about LegalZoom, and then we'll get back to our boozing. Taxes. Oh man, we all have to deal with the taxes, especially this time of the year. I think it's been bumped a couple of weeks, but it's coming, baby. It's out there like the Grim Reaper. Business owners, it's critical to know your options. LLCs, DBAs, S corps, all mean different things when it comes to taxes. LegalZoom. Don't worry about doing all the legwork yourself. Find your answers at LegalZoom. Our own Mike Lynch set up his private practice and LLC through LegalZoom. Dawson did as well. I believe Gary Smith did it as well. You go to Mark Garagos, he will send you to LegalZoom. If you can get it done at LegalZoom, he'll go to LegalZoom. My billable hours are too much. LegalZoom has a ton of resources, including their own network of independent attorneys and tax professionals as well. They're not a law firm. They're LegalZoom, and they'll save you time and save you money. Right, Dawson?
Take an important step for your family today. Go to LegalZoom.com to get started on the last will, living trust, and more, or to find out how you can speak to an attorney for advice on the right estate plan. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
So ginger beer and rum, God, these things just keep getting better.
Yeah,
Right.
This is great.
Well, this one, don't you think it's like this kind of is very rich? This
Yes,
feels
it's
like
rich.
this is kind of like a desserty type
Yes.
thing, man. You get that, that
It's a
like you
treat.
said, Adam, that ginger is so delicious. And this rum, I'm pretty excited that my friend who sent us this from Campari America said, we're pretty much the first people trying this beside, in front of the general public. Not even like they haven't sent this out yet to other media types and whatnot. Obviously tough to do that right now, but we're in
Right.
They hustled for us to
That's
get
So
us.
important.
So they
Thank them. And yeah, this is really good. And again, this the ginger beer is top shelf, and it's adding to the experience.
So again, like Brian said, $29 a bottle, can't beat it. So now we're gonna move on to the final thing. And by the way, do you guys know why I went gin? You always want to go light spirits to dark spirits if you're doing a tasting like this. So I went gin, the most refreshing. Tequila's got a little bit more oomph to it. Then we go to this rum, which is got that sweeter, richer flavor. And finally, we're gonna close out with a bourbon.
Yeah.
And this one's an interesting one right here, Legent.
Mm-hmm.
What's great about Legent is it is a truly first of its kind bourbon, and that it brings East and West together. And by that, I mean this. It's a Beam product, okay? Legent starts off as a Kentucky straight bourbon, which is made from if you like Jim Beam, and who doesn't like Jim Beam, this is made from the classic Beam recipe by the master distiller Fred No, who's 7th generation master distiller there. He makes the bourbon. It's blended, though, by Shinji Fukuya, who is the 5th ever master blender of Suntory. You guys know, like Beam, Suntory combined, right? Suntory's the biggest Japanese whiskey in the world. So it was made at Beam.
Is this going to give us coronavirus, Dan?
I don't think so. Japan, man, Japan. So this is aged 4 years in white oak. We know that. We've talked about this before on the show. All bourbon's got to be made in charred white oak barrels. And then they partially finish it in wine and sherry casks. So this is a unique bourbon. There hasn't been one made like this before. So you guys want to nose this thing up?
Yeah.
Adam
and I opened this a few days ago, independent of each other, but it's quite delightful.
We did. I do my homework. I do show prep.
That's right.
When I'm watching Daylight for the 5th time.
So what are you guys getting on the nose there?
Let's see.
I don't know how else to say this, and maybe it's because we've sampled 4 different booze. It starts out kind of like a battery and ends up very buttery.
Yeah, buttery is what I was going to say. It's got a richness to it.
Yeah, it has kind of an acidic spice at the beginning and then a really buttery, nice, smooth finish.
Well, there's going to be an edge to it as opposed to everything else that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
Getting raisins? Anybody getting raisins on there?
Yeah, it has. Has an edge to it that the other stuff doesn't have, which it's not what I would have expected, but good. Hey, kids, if you're listening, it's why you can't limit yourself to one alcohol.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Because there is so much to say about all of these, right? Like there's so much good about all of them. Like you would never just go, and I don't, I've always said that about like when I run into car guys and I go, oh, you're a car guy. I'm a car guy. And they go, I'm a Mopar guy. And then they just want to talk about Hemi Cudas. And I'm like, it's like saying I love women, but only redheads. Like, why not love them all? You know what I mean? Like there's so much there. Love all the good stuff. Right. So it's like the thing where it's like, well, yeah, I like to drink, but I'm a vodka guy. Like, spread it around a little bit. Because I don't even know if you said to me, hey, which one of these did you like more? I'd go like, I don't know. They were all just different.
Why do I have to choose? They're all great.
Why do I have to
Depends on the
I'm
time of
throwing
day,
some ginger ale in mine, by the way. If you guys have the ginger ale, I think bourbon and ginger is probably of all the I meet a lot of distillers. Most of the bourbon people that I meet, they do bourbon and ginger as opposed to Coke. Yeah,
really.
It seems to be more popular, and I think the ginger notes just combine a little bit. When you do bourbon and Coke, you're getting that sweetness. Again, we talked about that fructose corn syrup and all that. It's easy. It feels good. But I think the ginger ale, just right, it gets there.
This is fantastic.
Let's give it a shot.
This is really fantastic.
I've never thought about ginger ale and bourbon.
Oh, man.
That's such a nice, that's a nice flavor.
Kind of a 7 and 7 kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. It is, but I think the ginger and the bourbon itself just combine in such a way that's so nice. Plus,
I don't know I don't know why I think this. For some reason the taste of that feels very Mad Men. It feels very mid 60s, like a throwback drink.
Yeah.
I think my grandparents had me make this for them.
Yeah, this is delicious. This is great.
I don't want to get political, but I was watching a guy last night, some doctor, and he was like, this thing may go on another 18 months. Like we're not going to be able to get back to work and back to normal until we come up with the vaccination. And I was watching it last night, sober, and I was angry. Now I think he's on to something.
By the way, I was gonna say, this has been my favorite. I love coming in and seeing you guys in the studio, but it's way more clinical. Like we're in there, we're like, all right, we all got to go do our shit. You got to pick up the kids. You got to do this. Now I'm kind of hoping this drags on a little bit.
I could get something done in this theater.
Well, the other part of it too.
Hold on, Sonny, where are my Toll House cookies? Go ahead.
Let's do Monday's show.
Well, the other part of it too that I think that we haven't done. Every other time we do this, we're like, all right, it's Irish whiskey, it's tequila, it's this. I like being able to do the spectrum of different drinks. So like next time we can do something because everybody doesn't, right now we're stuck at home and we need diversity. Like that's kind of how my drinking's gone. I'm like, what should I drink today? Because I have nothing the fuck else to do. I'm like, should I drink rosé? Should I do this? Should I do whiskey? Should I do this? So it works.
Dan, you're getting a plug for that, the podcast, What We're Drinking with Dan Dunn. And then I'll skip ahead to the bottom here. He chartered a flight to the Philippines?
That's odd. Recently, too.
No. Yeah. The podcast, at least, is available on Apple Podcasts. Sorry. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to be abrupt there.
That's all I got. I got nothing for you. I'm going to sit here and drink the rest of this. And did you guys have I don't like to do favorites, but I think we're all in agreement that today was a nice mix of stuff.
Oh, today was a red letter day. I'll tell you my biggest surprise. I don't like gin. I'm not a gin person. I think the gin I've had in my life is it reminds me of one of those pine car freshener.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Sure. This gin was awesome. I really enjoyed it straight, and I will enjoy it straight again later.
My earliest relationship with gin is I worked at the Flask liquor store on Ventura Boulevard, which still remains, by the way. I think the Flask liquor is still there in Ventura and Studio City. And my buddy Alex Arado was the delivery boy for Flask. And when he went off to college, he got me the job delivering booze for Flask liquor. And at one point, I was getting several cases of gin out from the back storeroom, and I screwed up with the hand truck, and the case went flying, and a bunch of bottles of gin broke. I was 16. I remember thinking to myself, oh, this smells just like someone had sanitized or sterilized a room.
Right.
It was probably Beefeater or something like that. But my first experience was, oh, this smells more like hand sanitizer than it does a libation. But
it's the power of Pine Sol, baby.
Yeah. But this has changed the game. This Sipsmith.
Can I just say,
yes, nuance.
It was great experiencing a buzz with you guys today, because I'm experiencing a buzz.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with me. I didn't do it. It came upon me, this experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, while there were no losers and everyone is a winner, the tequila and grapefruit to me is unbelievable. And your insistence that it's great for brunch has really opened up my 11 o'clock hour. Potentially from this day on.
Adam, I'm gonna improve your life right here. Do your best to remember this. If you're ever out wine tasting, or really spirits, tasting anything, you're tasting wine or spirits or whatever, and you don't want. This is good advice for all the alcoholics out there. If you want another pour, but you don't want to say like, give me some more of that shit, say like, I'd like to revisit. Right now I'm revisiting the gin. Dan, you've heard this, of course, in the wine tasting. I'd like to revisit the Pinots. Like, give me some more goddamn Pinot.
I can be honest, like I loved it all too, but the rum, the Appleton and the modified dark and stormy just puts me in that, because we're getting into the, later in the day, just warm, wrapped up.
Cozy.
Come
Rainy
here.
Day.
We're going to make it through this. We're going to make it through this virus. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
so Bryan, I think if you went with the, let's see, the Scotch, or I should say the bourbon, then we'd be completely divided in a positive.
That's funny because
way, right?
I like them all. The tequila was fourth place for me. Good, but not my my jam. I'm going back to the gin first. It's very enjoyable. But yeah, the Legion is right up there. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's something about the grapefruit that did something to the tequila that I've never really experienced before. All right, let me hit, what do I got? LifeLock here? Yeah.
Well, you look for that, Dan. We cannot thank you enough. It seems like it was a lot of work, at least for me, a real pain in the ass for you to pull this off for all of us. And we really
I got some time, man. I got some time.
Thanks so much. Clink, clink.
Thanks, guys. No, that was it always, I love doing this every month. I love seeing you guys. And, especially now.
It was awesome.
This has made my day. See,
weekend is planned.
I've had 3 faces on my screen, and I haven't had that in a couple of days. So, yeah.
Gary, got a screenshot of us cheersing. Cheers, everyone.
All right, hold on. Let me hit LifeLock here. A lot of fake products out there, phony stock deals, fabricated emails, text, social media posts, playing off the corona fears out there. People trying to steal your money and your information. That's why you have to get LifeLock. Scammers are going to ask for donations, and you're a good person, you want to donate, but they're looking to steal your cash, people. Identity thieves getting smarter all the time. When it comes to identity theft, you need comprehensive protection in case you become a victim, especially during tax season, which is it's been kicked back, but it's right around the corner. Good thing there's LifeLock. They detect a wide range of identity threats, like your social security number. By the way, social security number's a tough sell even on your soberest day. Social security number on sale on the dark web. Protect yourself, everyone. Get yourself LifeLock. Right, Dawson? Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Dawson. Yeah, right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. LifeLock can see threats you might miss on your own. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to LifeLock.com. Use promo code Adam. That's promo code Adam at LifeLock.com for up to 25% off.
Yeah, here's my problem. I can't throw away anything that has any sort of value to it. So whatever my drinks are that are before me, I shall consume them all before they go away.
Wait, can I see your bourbon bottle? I want to see how much is in there.
Oh, where is it? Let's see.
Oh, look at you.
You made a good dent.
Oh, no. Yeah, I started the dent 6 days ago.
Yeah.
I began making my dent, because again, it's called show prep. Kids, listen up. All right, I want to thank Scott Carney for Skyping in today or Zooming in today. The Wedge, it is the name of his book. It is out on Monday. You can pre-order it now. Dan Dunn, What We're Drinking with Dan Dunn, available on Apple Podcasts, and lots of top shelf guests like Matthew McConaughey and Neil Everett and Anthony Bourdain in the past. I mean, lots of good names. And then we skip ahead to the bottom. Oh, that's unfortunate. I didn't know you had a niece. All right. Anyway, let's move past the end of the bio there. And you guys can go to adamcarolla.com. You can go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/Adam Carolla. See the stand up there and see us drinking these cocktails there. And you can pre-order my book, I'm Your Emotional Support Animal, which is available on, you can get on Amazon and pre-order it and all that in audio book as well. Hey, guys, cheers, man. This has been
Salute.
It's been an awesome show. Thank you very much. Good sports coming up next. Until next time, Adam Carolla for Dan Dunn and Scott Carney and Gina Bryan saying, Ahala.